Hi, this is Stan Bush.
Hi, this is Stephanie Calvert.
This is John Payne.
This is Jack Hughes.
Hey everyone, this is Britt Lightning from Vixen.
Hi, I'm Carrie Stevens.
Hello, I'm Kofi Baker.
And you're listening to Play That Rock and Roll.
Beverly Hills Cop, AXEL F. Before we talk about if we liked it or not, what would you say were your expectations and your hopes? And those are different things for this movie now that, we got it.
Oh, man. I think I kept my expectations actually quite low because it's been a long time. It's been 30 years. I mean, and the last sequel was so bad.
Right.
Like the last one really was so bad. So it didn't really have a very high bar to clear to begin with, let's be honest. But I think my expectation was that it probably wasn't going to match the first two movies, but it was going to sail past the third one.
Yeah.
And my hope was that Eddie would be on and he would be really committed, and thankfully he is. My hope was that it retained the flavor of Beverly Hills Cop. It didn't feel like a generic kind of reboot, which is a thing that often happens these days. It just feels like they've kind of brought the actors back, but it doesn't feel like it's in consistency with the original films. It manages to pass that hurdle, in my opinion.
Yep.
And yeah, my hope was just be entertaining, just be fun. I think that was literally putting the barrier pretty low, but reasonably. It won me over quite quickly, actually. Like the opening section in Detroit, there's some stuff that I think that AXEL F has probably done the best out of the entire franchise, which surprises me. Namely, the really, really kind of playing on the dichotomy between Detroit and Beverly Hills visually.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
In the first portion of the movie, when they're doing the Detroit stuff, it's in winter. It's in winter time, so it's all covered in snow, which makes the contrast visually even more striking than it already was. And it's one of those things where you go, why didn't they do that before? Because it seems like such an obvious idea. Mm-hmm. But I think it does the best job visually of conveying that. And the opening section where he's got the snow plow and he's crashing that through, you can clearly tell the kind of the guiding line from the original movie with the truck sequence. Yep. They're trying to recapture the magic of that, and also the bit with the cement mixer. Yeah. The cement truck. That kind of works. And
Shakedown,
like,
it was nice to see those songs again.
Yeah, they bring the songs back, and I have seen a lot of people mention that. The fact that the movie goes really hard with the needle drops in the first 20 minutes, kind of, you know what? It works for me. I understand why they did that. It's a little bit cheap and shameless. They probably shouldn't have front loaded it as much as they did. But hearing the kind of old themes immediately gives you that kind of revival vibe, but also makes it feel immediately like a Beverly Hills Cop movie. It, like I said, it mostly nails the feeling of the franchise. It, Jerry Bruckheimer's back on. It feels like a Jerry Bruckheimer movie. It has that kind of edge to it. It's nice to see. And Eddie is mostly back on form. Maybe I'm being picky about Eddie Murphy's performance. I think he's mostly here, but I also think that, it's been a long time. It's been 40 years since he first played that character. He's literally a different person.
Yep.
And I do think that it's hard for him at times to tap into that kind of self-assuredness that he had when he was 22 when he first played the character or so. Like, he was really, really young, and now he's 60 odd. And that was the other thing I was a bit skeptical about it, because obviously he's kind of pushing it at this point. We kind of get a lot of action stars that are doing the glory days, and you go, well, can you really do this fight sequence, or are we gonna chop it up like Liam Neeson? It's not so much like License to Kill so much as Bus Pass. It gets very close to that territory. But surprisingly, I think that Eddie carries it despite that. I did notice, if I'm being a little bit I did notice there's not a lot of foot chases and things like that in this
Oh,
one.
of course.
A lot of vehicle stuff, a lot of vehicle-based action set pieces, which is fine. Which is fine. I get it. I'm not going to harp on it too much.
So what do you think about, they bring John Ashton back, they bring Paul Reiser back, it's like almost the whole Beverly Hills Cop family is there with the exception, I guess, of Ronnie Cox, who I would have liked to have seen, but I understand why he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, did you feel this relied too much on nostalgia, or did it find a good fit of making it, its own contemporary thing besides a throwback?
I think it did a fairly good job of maybe keeping like it definitely rides on that nostalgia. We've talked about
Oh,
that
yeah.
already, but it does a good job of doing enough new that it doesn't feel like it's just retreading all the time. Like there's undeniable callbacks, but it functions as a movie onto itself. It's not like a lot of these legacy sequels where it's literally just, oh, we're doing the same movie again, but with new actors.
Yeah.
It's different this time out, and it like even down to the plot. Like one of the criticisms of the Beverly Hills Cop movies is that all three of them kind of had the idea that someone near Axel gets shot. Either they die, or in the case of Bogomil, they survive. But they all, someone gets shot and Axel has to come back in. That's not the setup this time. They do a different setup, which is just, like even that is a small thing. You go, oh, they got it. They knew what they were doing with this material, and so there's enough new stuff thrown in there, but there's enough kind of, and even the nostalgia. They don't like Billy comes back but he's not really back until like the end of the movie properly anyway. But also the relationships with the characters, they could have very easily coasted on those. They could have very easily just had the actors kind of come in, they have their rapport with each other, they know how to kind of just plug right back into that stuff, and that works when they allow them to do that. But they actually gave Taggart something to do in this. In that Taggart, he's the new chief of police. There's actually some antagonism with Axel and with Billy. There's a conflict going on there that adds a bit of variety and a bit of tension, and it's in character for him to be like that. He's defending his department. It doesn't feel forced, but it also makes sense for the characters, and it like I said, it gives them something to do. It's not about just bringing the actors back. You've got to do something with them. Otherwise, it's just fan service. And AXEL F actually resists that to a certain extent. So kudos on it for that. So actually developing a script and characters properly.
It's a real fine line to find that balance of like too much fan service and an appropriate level of nostalgia callbacks. I love the Rambo jokes with Billy is always funny. Like maybe that's just for me.
They get the characterization right as well. They come back to that stuff, and it feels like it. It doesn't feel like it's just, oh, we're winking back to the second movie. It feels consistent in terms of his personality, so that makes sense as like an in-universe sort of thing. And it's kind of funny that I did think it was weird that the MacGuffin of the movie, the SD card, like it gets really kind of just offhandedly sort of just finished off. Like, oh, it was in the Rambo knife the entire time, and then they just have it. I guess they just like it doesn't really matter.
It was funny. I just hearing him say the line "my Rambo knife" honestly made me laugh. It's just such a funny line. Was there anything about the movie that didn't work for you? Any shortcomings?
I think it does start to falter around the middle for me. I think it's a little bit too flabby. I think plot wise, I think it has the same kind of problem that Beverly Hills Cop 2 did, but in a different way. There's too much plot, but it's not tight enough to compensate for that. So again, there's a lot of procedural here that I feel is a bit on the slow side. It kind of bogs down the movie. Kind of, we got to get to this bit, and then we got to get to this bit, and then we got to get to this bit. It does take a little bit of the wind out of the movie's sails, especially after such a strong start. Like, the beginning of the movie gave me a lot of goodwill, and then by the middle of it, I was going, I'm kind of faltering a little bit here.
Yeah.
The relationship between Axel and his daughter, played by Taylor Page, I thought there was a little bit too much of that stuff. Like, obviously the stuff needs to be in there. It feels a little bit too cliche, in my opinion, the way that it's executed. And there's too many scenes of them just kind of doing tit for tat, and I would have liked to have seen a different, like, their relationship does evolve over the course of the movie, but it really should have been more of an actual, more of a developed thing. It just feels a little bit stock, and I don't necessarily disagree with having that sort of thing. It's just I've seen it in so many different movies where they kind of bring in the kid, and then the kid has a bit of a, has a bit of a chip on their shoulder about it. It just feels a little bit by the book.
But a good performance from Taylor, and also a good performance, I think, from Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I liked him.
He fitted in quite well, in my opinion. He gives someone for Eddie to actually play off of, and also because he's younger, he can actually do all the action stuff. He's clearly the one doing most of the actual kind of physical stuff in the set pieces, which makes sense. But I thought that him and Murphy actually made pretty good foils for each other.
Yeah.
So, especially in the helicopter sequence, which when I saw that in the trailer, it gave me a bit of pause, I'll be honest. Because when I saw it was one of those things where I went, that might be taking it a bit too far, lads. I don't know if I kind of go with this, but in execution, it's really funny. Like especially the way that Axel's kind of reacting to it, and then there's like this weird Christopher McDonald cameo, which is like, I think it's a Happy Gilmore like joke, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right, on the golf course.
Yeah, he's meant to be playing Shooter McGavin, but he's not literally playing Shooter McGavin for legal reasons.
Of course,
but he's clearly meant to be Shooter McGavin. It's weird choice there. But that's one. There is a couple of moments where they do weird kind of references to other things, like one when they're at the car lot. And the guy behind the counter is an aspiring actor, and Axel's kind of sweet talking him. That's a good riffy bit, but it's just so bizarre that the entire crux of it is Jupiter Ascending, the Fock Wachowski movie. like, what a weird thing to bring out of completely nowhere. Just have all these references to Jupiter Ascending. Like, they could have made up a movie, but no, they decided we're going to go full bore and just absolutely take the mick out of it. What's a safe target here?
That's right. I laughed really hard at that, because like that had to be someone on this writing the script saw that movie and fucking hated it, and was just like, I'm going to write this scene.
They hated it so much they had to license that out from Warner Brothers for the sake of that joke.
Well, I imagine that's the only way Warner's making any money off of it now, so why not, right?
Like, if they went 6 months later, Netflix could have probably allowed them to do a Rebel Moon joke instead.
Oh.